Hey guys, welcome back to Case Says. So this video will be a part 2 of the previous Black Lives Matter Antifa Exposed, but I will title it We Have Been Lied To. So some things in this video of part 2 you may know, but again, for the people that don't know, I am here to educate you, for you to get a spark of something that I say and go do your own research and further expound upon what I'm saying. Please don't take anything that you hear from YouTube or anybody from that matter to heart. If it interests you that much, please go do your own research on that topic so you can then know and be able to regurgitate it and tell somebody else. And perhaps you can, they'll pay it forward and pay it forward, and they'll go look up the information, and and so on and so forth. That's exactly why I do what I do. So without further ado, where we left off, let me find where we left off. We were getting into the whole first Constitution and second Constitution. So under the first Constitution, we were U.S. sovereign, and we were not mandated to pay taxes. Paying taxes is theft. And it was also deemed that this was not a democracy, but a republic. That was key points of how the first Constitution differs to the second Constitution. Under the second Constitution, of course, it's United States of America instead of United States for America. So United States of America is the second Constitution. Of course, that's where we live in now. So with that, this is a democracy. We do pay taxes, and we are now citizens instead of sovereign. Okay? So through the 1871 Act, Pope Pius IX got together with Ulysses S. Grant, the president at the time, and destroyed the first Constitution and changed us from to citizens and to make us part of corporations. So think of everything in the world as how the mafia is ran, but at the top of the mafia is the Pope. So the Pope, whoever's the current Pope, gives out guidelines and sets the tone for everybody. So it's not the president of these different countries or republics or states or whatever. It's the Pope, and then everybody else under that. So if the Pope says something, then everybody else up under that does that. So when did that start happening? That's crazy. But that's all under this Second Amendment, okay? Under the Second Amendment, 25,000 wars have been started, okay? Everything really starts in Europe, and if it's happening in Europe, it's going to happen here. Okay, so they started to take away the gold standard, which means that gold no longer backed the currency. They started that first in Europe, and then it started over here. Let's see. So the sinking of the Titanic. Okay, let's get into that. The sinking of the Titanic was the next thing, going from the first Constitution to the second Constitution. And I know you're like, what does that have to do with it? It has a lot to do with it, so stay tuned. So let me switch over to my notes for that. So on April 10th, 1912, as we know, that's a year before the federal government came into existence, the RMS Titanic sailed, okay? And it sailed for several days before it hit an iceberg off Newfoundland. The sinking lost about 1,500 passengers, and the sinking caused outrage and led people to, left maritime law was up for then debate about safety and stuff like that. But what if I told you guys the whole thing really was nothing more than a George Floyd? I know you're like, what? It was a rich man's trick, a distraction. So, stick with me. There was no classes on the Titanic. They wanted us to believe that through the I want to say they wanted to perpetrate that there were classes through showing us the movie Titanic, but in actuality there weren't any classes. Okay. There only was the Olympic class only. Do your research. Okay, so it's up for debate that it really actually sank, and were the big wig people that died on it, were they really just killed? But I have to do a little bit more research on that. But this is what I have so far. Stick with me. So what happened was 3 ships were commissioned to be built out of Belfast. And that was the Titanic, the Olympic, and the Britannica. The Britannica, I don't believe, was ever built. So what happened was the Olympic got done and sailed first. It hit a military ship, and that would have cost the company that owned it, which was the let me find that really quick in my notes. I believe it's the International Mercantile Marine Corporation is what owned owned these 3 ships in question. Okay, so when the Olympic hit the military ship, then it caused damage, and it would have cost the company a lot of money. Okay, so what their fix for that was, stick with me, their fix for that was to simply swap it through a paint job, and they changed the Olympic into the Titanic. Boom. Now, who could afford to do something like this? Because that's not a cheap bill. Okay, so who had a lot of money at that time? Somebody by the name of J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan was something called a robber baron back then, which means that he just had a lot of money and controlled a lot, along with a lot of other rich people, a lot of the industry of things. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. So then that's when he started this whole insurance fraud, trying to save the company money by doing the paint job and swapping the ships. But this also was the beginning of a violent takeover of the U.S. economy as we knew it under the first Constitution. So let's see. What's next? Next page. So the USA had debts at that time, and they needed to be bailed out. J.P. Morgan offered to give the USA money, which made the USA and J.P. Morgan tight homies. I mean, tight, like pimp tight, like run a train on your girl tight, and the train that was running was us, the American people. Okay. We was getting a train ran on us and we didn't even know it. Okay. So once JP Morgan gave money to the states, then of course they were in bed with each other. So, but this made the other rich guys mad about this alliance. And I'll tell you who these other rich guys are in a moment. So at this time also, the Rothschilds were like okaying this deal, if not pushing it, if not giving him even not be paying back the debt. And now this part right here is speculation, but not that they were involved, but necessarily how they were involved at this point of it. Okay, so the alliance made J.P. Morgan even richer, and all the rich robber barons at that time who hated him and opposed this merger, if you will, they all ended up dead on the Titanic, aka the Olympic. So J.P. Morgan wanted to start the Federal Reserve Bank, okay? And the Rothschilds were behind it because you know why? The Rothschilds and Ulysses S. Grant and Pope Pius IX were all in bed about that as well. Because they were all benefit from running a train on the American people, okay? So John Jacob Astor, so remember his name came up before, Benjamin Guggenheim, and the owner of Macy's, Isidore Straus, were all killed on the Titanic. By them dying, this kicked off the Federal Reserve. Okay, J.P. Morgan was supposed to be on the Titanic, but pulled out at the last moment. But the distraction of why he wasn't on the boat, or ship rather, covered up another missing person who was supposed to be on the ship as well. Guess who? Milton Hershey. Ain't this some shit? You see how all of these motherfuckers work? Yeah, this is nothing more than a Masonic rich man's trick, okay? That's it. So J.P. Morgan intentionally wanted the Titanic to sink. This was nothing more than a disappearing magic trick. This is what they operate in, magic. And out of chaos comes order. So through the chaos of and the sadness of the Titanic's sinking and the tragicness of it, through that, the solution was somehow the Federal Reserve Bank. Or while we were grieving over the Titanic sinking and all those lost lives, they never seen how they were putting the Federal Reserve into play and how they were telling people to drop off their gold. Crazy. So Milton Hershey, the Rothschilds, J.P. Morgan, Ulysses S. Grant, Pope Pius IX were all in bed together to start the Federal Reserve. And they killed all the other robber barons at that time that opposed their plan, that wouldn't get on board. And guess what came up? Hershey's came up and went on to become a household name. The Federal Reserve came into play, where we, got dicked out of money and got a train ran on us. And all these robber barons got richer because these names, the Astor family, the Guggenheims isn't one, and neither is the Strauss, but the Astor family is part of the Divine Nine. Let me see what else. So then I'm going back to my other page. So once this all happened, then we had to get birth certificates, social security numbers, and then we became nothing more than stocks and commodities to be sold and traded. What does that sound like? Slavery. Antebellum. Okay, guys? This is nothing more to show you, back to my original point, that slavery never ended. Okay? It never ended. All they did was change the rules. It's the same game. Guys, wake up. So, a little bit about George Floyd and Derek Chauvin. Okay, so I know these two names, people have been beating this like a dead horse. I'm pretty sure at this point nobody wants to hear any more about this. But I have some extra tidbits that maybe you didn't know. So both of them were drug dealers. Both of them worked at a nightclub, which you may know or may not know. But what's important is that they were working for a Spanish woman by the name of Maya Santa Maria or Santa Maria. And she was a friend of, guess who? None other than Vanessa Bryant, who's the wife of the late Kobe Bryant. Okay? I know you like, damn, Kobe just keep coming up. That's when I said, I'm like, damn, he just keep coming up. And how they knew each other was when Kobe used to play in the NBA and had games playing the Minnesota Timberwolves. They would go to this club that this woman owned. That, again, this is the same club that Derek Chauvin and George Floyd worked at and ran drugs for the lady Maya Santa Maria out of the Dominican Republic. Can y'all believe that shit? Crazy. This all goes back to, this was nothing more than a distraction. George Floyd and this whole thing, it was a distraction. It's even some type of discrepancy with his height. Like, it was known that he was 6'6", and somehow, like, on his death certificate, I think it said he was 6'1". How did he shrink? But okay. I doubt that he's not. I don't even think he's dead, actually, guys. But it's just that they know that black people are going to be the first ones to react, because why? Re-victimization of slavery. But let me tell you a little bit more about slavery. Yeah, black people really are the only people, or is the only people on the planet who we don't know who we are. And I know you're like, what? No, we don't know who we are. We are the only people that's up for debate as to who we are, where we come from. Are we Native American? Was we just Americans? Was there slavery? Was there not slavery? Like, should I be called a Negro, a nigga, an African American? Like, it's black. Like, it's, why are we the only race that goes through that? Strategic. Let me tell you that. And it even culminates down to nicknames, like with rappers, 50 Cent, Ice-T, Lil Pump, Lil this, Lil that, Big this, Big that. Come on. That's because we don't know who we are. And we're running from the fact of who we are, or wanting to even know, or just it plays out as the confusion of being, could we rather be these people because we know who these people are, but we don't know who Davon Jackson is. You see what I'm saying? But you know who, if you called yourself Lil Murder, you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? It's crazy. Anyway, so it really was the Ashanti tribe that sold black people into slavery out of Ghana. Do your research. I want to let you know also that the KKK was created as a Jewish secret society. It was never created by white people. It was a Rothschild agent who hired somebody named Philip Benjamin, last name Benjamin, and this person hired Albert Pike to be the face of the KKK. But people also know Albert Pike to be one of the Masonic fathers, right? But this organization was nothing more than a ploy and a cover for the synagogue of Satan. Do your research. So, black and white people are being played against each other purposely, so the people at the top, these 9 divine families, cash in on that. Okay, so it's the goal, it's noted as the goal of the deep state is to create a race war and for them to cash in on it at the top. Guys, we're being played. We're being lied to. We're being lied to, and we're all falling for it. Wake up. I want to tell you something else. So white people had nothing to do with the transatlantic slave trade. Those slave ships were owned by the Rothschilds, the Oppenheimers, and the Warburgs. All three of those names are part of the Divine Nine. We've been lied to. So David Sarnoff was behind the destruction of the Titanic, which was a tidbit that I left out. But it's just the fact that also he owns NBC, MSNBC, CNN, and he's dubbed as the father of American television. But guess what? He's also the founder of that Satan tool. Satan is an acronym. Don't you remember me telling you about that tool? Let me get back to my notes on that so I can reiterate that to you guys. That came up in that Kobe and Chadwick leaving the plantation video. I'm just getting back to what the acronym spells out. Give me a quick second to find it in my notes. Where is it? Here it goes. 1 second. It stands for Security Admin Tool for Analyzing Networks. The acronym is Satan. This is what David Sarnoff came up with. Okay, he also has Russian ties as well, but that's also linked to Amber Alerts. Amber Alerts is also linked to the Silsby family, which was a lineage of a family that owned slaves. It's documented that is in East Savannah, the Bryant plantation bought approximately like 125 slaves from the Silsbys. One of those slaves was a woman. That woman was raped by somebody on the Bryant plantation, hence starting the male lineage of Kobe Bryant's father. Yeah. Now remember, the Silsby name was the lady of the Lord Silsby, who was caught in Haiti along with Hillary Clinton stealing 33 Haitian kids and got off. So guys, listen, we've been lied to. All this shit is connected. All of this shit is a rich man's trick. So it's time for you guys to wake up and do your research and realize that you've been lied to. Quit being a puppet and quit doing what your television, your laptop, your cell phone tell you to do. Do your own fucking research. We are all essentially still on a plantation, and we are in chainless bondage. All of us. So it's time for us to get off the fucking plantation. That was the conclusion of my video. Okay, I want to keep it short and sweet. I don't want to give you guys too much information all at one time because it bogs your mind down. So rewind the video, take notes, and go back and do your own research for yourself so you can regurgitate it to somebody else. And again, they can go and research it, and the chain continues, okay? And that's how we pay it forward and pass knowledge on, okay? So guys, remember to seek the truth, vibrate higher, and carpe diem. And until the next time.